Hey friends, welcome back to the Finding Joy in Your Home podcast. I'm very excited you're joining me today. We're going to be talking about what do you do when you're taking a break from school, or this will apply to homeschoolers, this will apply to other people, traditional schooling, or when your kids are on summer break, as many of us are about to be. We're going to talk about how do you keep kids occupied during the day when they don't otherwise have school or activities to engage them. That's what we're going to talk about today. How do you kind of come up with structure and activity ideas for them to do on their own? All right, so we're going to dive right in. I do have one announcement for you. One very exciting announcement. The 2024 Finding Joy in Your Home online conference is coming very soon. It is going to be hosted at the end of May. Now, if you have joined us over the years, you know probably that this is our 11th year? No, our 10th year. This is our 10th year of doing our online homemaking conference. We invite speakers on various topics every single year, and it is a wonderful, super fun time. Every year, until now, we have charged a fee for our tickets, and typically they're about $50 to $60 per ticket. It's a great deal. You get lifetime access to all the material. You get the sessions, you get, all the fun stuff, the community, all the full package. We are changing it up this year in a really major way. So instead of buying that bigger price subscription or bigger price ticket to the conference, now you are going to be able to access the 2024 Finding Joy in Your Home online conference through our app. No additional fees. Someone was like, wait a minute. So now I have to pay for the app and then pay for the conference? Oh, no, my friends. No, my friends. You sign up for our app, you are going to just get access to the conference right within the app itself. So this is what's really amazing. If you use our coupon code, you can get 20% off, Joyful Home 20 at checkout. You can get 20% off your subscription, which makes your subscription to the app $10.39 for the month. So you are welcome to sign up, attend the conference, and then unsign up from the app if you want. You're not locked in. You can just do a month. But what you're also going to get, in addition to that full conference worth $60, you are going to get hundreds of other resources that we have in that app, all for that one price of $10. You're going to get so many different homemaking courses, all of our past conferences. By the way, like if you're excited, sign up right now today and start watching our past conferences. We have got audiobooks. We have got, the sheer amount of stuff in here is really, really incredible. So that is what we're doing. We're shaking it up in a major way this year, which is really, really exciting. We have got the theme announcement coming for you soon. We have got the speaker topics. It's going to be incredible. So if you want to check all this out, go to findingjoyinyourhome.com/app. You can see what the app is. And then we will have very shortly, if it's not already there, we're going to have information for you then on the upcoming conference. So findingjoyinyourhome.com/app. All right. So let's dive into this topic today. So this is a topic that I have to kind of go back to the drawing board and brainstorm a few times a year. So I know some of you listening have vastly different school situations going on, but I think a lot of what we talk about today can be applied to a lot of situations. So for us, we homeschool, and with that, it means we're home a lot, right? And there are times throughout the year, obviously summer break, Christmas break, normal things that, traditional schoolers have as well. And there's other times where we will take what we call project weeks. And I've talked about this before, where we kind of take a week off school that I still want the kids doing structured stuff because maybe Jason and I have a huge business thing that we're trying to work on. So I want the kids still working on things, having structure, having a good time, but also not just bouncing off the walls going crazy, right? And so this is definitely something we kind of come back to the drawing board again and again. And this is something that we apply to our afternoons. So we have a lot of times things on our schedule where like Wednesday afternoons, we go to, we have a group of friends that get together for dinner every Wednesday. So our Wednesdays always fly. We don't need to like find additional activities. There's days where we have things going on in the afternoon or we're gone or what have you. There's other days in our schedule where we get the bulk of our school done in the morning and the afternoon is kind of kids can work on projects, kids can work on things, but I'm not necessarily directly involved driving all of the action. And I don't just want them also playing video games all day, right? Or watching TV all day. And so what becomes this perpetual problem is, how can you help kids stay occupied while not just being on screens all day? Like, what are some middle grounds? So whether you need to occupy some time in the afternoons, or you are looking at summer vacation, which is rapidly coming for most of us, this is what we're going to be talking about, is how can you help give kids some structured activities and things to do without you having to run the whole shebang. So you can kind of have a hands-off approach. Now, I am a huge fan, I'll say this right now, I'm a huge fan of unstructured play as well. There are many times where I'm like, okay, I've set a timer, you guys need to be outside for an hour. And then a lot of times, first 10 minutes, I'm bored, I don't know what to do. And then all of a sudden the hour timer goes off and they're still out there playing because now they're actually having fun. So I think there's plenty of times in a kid's schedule where they need to have unstructured play. They need to be bored and they need to say, Mom, I'm bored, and they need to go find something to do. What I like to do is to be able to help facilitate ideas to fill that board time so that they realize, oh, there's actually fun and interesting things that I can go pick up and do. And the more that we do this, the more that I kind of try to help point the kids in a direction and say, hey, have you thought about doing this? The more that I find that boredom problem goes away and the kids just kind of naturally find things to do. Sometimes that's like they go into the garage and they realize we have a bunch of cardboard boxes and they're like, Mom, can we take these and make a fort? Go for it. Finding creative things like that to do. When kids get bored, it's amazing the genius that they can come up with, the things that they can do. So I'm a huge fan of unstructured play. There are also times, though, let's say summer break, where too much unstructured time can become a bad thing, when there's just too much open time, and you don't necessarily want them on screens. You don't want them on video games or TV for 14 hours a day, every day for 3 months, right? So what do we do in those times? So we have gotten into some pretty good routines this last year as our kids are getting older. Not everybody. We still have littles in the house too. But as the older kids are getting older, and realizing that there are more things that they can fill their time with, this has become a pretty good routine in our household. So this is something I'm going to share. What I'm going to share with you today is our daily school activities or daily afternoon activities list. So this is something we put into practice daily when we are home. We've got that afternoon kind of stretching ahead. I'm getting ready for dinner, things like that. And the kids need to be playing on their own. I'm not engaging the 9-year-old in giving him something specific to do. Like he needs to find some activities on his own. I found that this list we've put together really helps. So this is what we're going to review. I have 3 tips for you, and then we're going to go over those specific ideas. So number 1, what I have found when you have kids who are bouncing off the walls, you've got free time and you're like, why don't you just go play? Like, just go. And they're not, and it's crazy and there's chaos. You know what I'm talking about, right? When it's become too unstructured and chaos reigns. This is particularly a problem, not when you have a random day off. This is a problem when you have many days or weeks, such as summer vacation, when there's the schedule is too open, and yet you can't just provide a structured activity all day, every day, and saying, okay, next we're going to do this. Like, there's times where I just need to get some dinner made and they can go find some things to do on their own. So here's my tips that have helped. Number 1, this sounds counterintuitive to what I've been saying, but bear with me. The more structure, and maybe I'm using that word in too many different ways, but I'll explain what I mean. The more structure you have in place, the better. So what I am talking about is I'm talking about routines, a flow to your day. Kids really thrive off being able to know what is coming next, what they are expected to do. And so I am, at the same time as I say that, I am a huge fan in unstructured playtime, but unstructured playtime that fits in the overall flow of your day. Does that make sense? Am I getting across this concept I'm trying to say? So what works really well for us is having general loose schedules. So for our homeschool day, for example, we school 8 to noon. Solid. Like 8 to noon is school. I don't mean solid. Like we have 10 minutes where I'm like, okay, I'm going to make some coffee, go play on the trampoline for 10 minutes, And then, okay, well, actually we finished our history. So let's do a quick cleanup. But 8 to noon is like homeschool time. Noon to 1:30, when we're doing really good, that's just lunch and like a chore. But sometimes the schooling kind of bleeds until then, or 5 of the kids are done and I'm working with 1 kid on something, just kind of like more floopy time till about 1:30 is what it seems to be. 1:30 to dinner time then is unstructured as far as what I have planned. And yet it's playtime for the kids. Like they know 1:30 to dinner time is kind of their free play time. If they have not finished their reading assignments for the day, or they have not finished their independent math or any of their other independent subjects, they have to finish those before they can go play. So they're usually pretty motivated to get it done because they don't want to be working until 5 o'clock. And so they know what's on the schedule. They know it's that time. And yet I don't have specific lists of like, okay, everybody, now we're all doing this. The afternoons are my time to like, I'm with the baby. I'm, helping the toddler doing something. We're cooking in the kitchen. We're folding laundry. Like we're kind of just doing different things around the house. And the older kids, 6 years old and up, and really the 4-year-old too, are kind of just finding things to do on their own. What happens though is that this can turn into, I'm bored, I have nothing to do, and the whining and everybody just kind of like wandering around. And because it's part of our school day, I would like them to be doing, it doesn't have to be directly educational, but doing some more directed things, but that are things that I'm not running, right? This especially holds true then too for spring break, summer breaks, where you just have a lot of days kind of running into each other. So for me, the more structure of the day, the better. So the kids know what to expect. What we used to do is like when all of our school was done, when chores were done, like at some point in the afternoon, I'd be like, okay, you guys can play Minecraft. So they would ask, right? They would ask and they would ask and they would ask. And I'd be like, not yet. No, it's only one. No, you can't do it yet. No. So finally, we changed it. We made this rule that you still have to ask, and it's not a guarantee, but you're absolutely not playing before 4. So don't even ask. It helped everything. You took a little reminder to be like, oh, remember, we don't do any Minecraft until 4. And yet then having that structure, they knew that was on the schedule. They knew that was the time. And it helped them to not be like, oh, when can we do it? When, having that like, oh, at some point you're going to be able to do that was actually worse. So setting in more structure so the kids know what to expect from the day helps tremendously, even if it's like, well, these 5 hours are free play time. Like you need to find some independent stuff to play on. And then we're going to have dinner. And then after dinner, you can play Minecraft. Like having that structure and that system to the day is what helps a lot. The second thing we have learned with our kids, at least, is that the kids do much better with checklists. So we have started doing checklists when we would do our project weeks. So during our project weeks, we would assign we bought this art course on Udemy that was like all about like drawing basics. And so one of their things they had to do every day during project week is the kids all had to do a lesson of that course. So they knew how to set it up and turn it on and do that lesson. They were assigned, each kid was assigned a breakfast. So like Remington might do breakfast on Monday and he was assigned that and he knew. And then their chores were assigned on there. They had different readings they had to do. Sometimes I'd be like, hey, I bought clay. You guys can do a clay project. So they would have a checklist that were like actually a lot of fun things that weren't necessarily school, but they were a bit more structured. And after we did that first project week, the kids were all like, Mom, we have normal school next week. Can you make us a checklist? We want to be able to see when our chore is, what we're doing, even the fun things that are on there. And so I realized that having that checklist, even if it's, hey, you're cleaning the bathroom today, having the checklist that the kid could have, especially as they're getting older, gives them more autonomy over their school. They can look at it and go, okay, I'm done with all my other stuff. And before I can go out and jump on the trampoline, I need to do my 30 minutes of reading and I need to clean the bathroom. I'm going to go do that right now. And it doesn't always work out that smoothly. I have to remind people to do things, but having that checklist helps them see what is on their day ahead, lends itself to that structure, and helps start to give them some autonomy over their school of, if I don't get this done now, I'm going to be doing it at 5 o'clock, or I'm going to be doing it at 7 o'clock before bed, and I don't want to do it that late. And so it really does help motivate them to take more responsibility for their school. Or like, let's say in the summer, maybe you don't have school in the summer, but you can still assign chores or different things that you want them to be doing. And the checklist is just better. And I get it. Like, it shouldn't be a surprise. I do better with a checklist. I do so much better with a checklist where I can look at it. I can also be motivated by checking things off and see, where I've come. And some kids will be more motivated by a checklist than others, but it does seem like it has really helped with that question too of what can I do next? What can I do now? For homeschool parents, having each kid have their own checklist is really helpful because let's say everybody's working on math at once. Well, it's inevitable that 2 people are going to need me at once to answer a math question. So what we can do now is if I'm working with the 6-year-old, I work more one-on-one with her for math. I'm sitting there with her and we're actually just doing her math. A kid comes up and says, I have a question on my math. I say, okay, I can't help you quite yet. So work on something else until then. He can look at his list and say, oh, I haven't done handwriting yet. So he can pull out his handwriting and be working on it while he waits for me, instead of starting to bounce around the house and go crazy, right? Because he's waiting for mom. And then before you know it, chaos has erupted. We still have chaos. We still have those moments. This doesn't eliminate or, it makes it sound like our homeschool day is perfect. It's not at all, but it definitely helps. It is a step in the right direction. All right. And then number 3, we've already talked about this, but is include daily chores in your structure, in your checklist, kind of however you're doing that, include those daily chores. So in the summer, you feel like kids are going bonkers. They're shooting off the walls. Start giving them some more chores. Start assigning some things like you're washing windows. You're doing this. Like start assigning things. Make up some things in the backyard. I need you to stack wood. You don't really care. You don't really need that. No, that's a chore for today. I need you to stack some wood. Give those kids some things to do. I'm not saying give them 12 hours of chores every day through the summer, but some structure there, some chores to do, some things to work with their hands is really good for many reasons. All right. So let's talk about what I really wanted to talk about, which is my checklist here. Okay, so if you're watching on YouTube, you can see my little checklist here. It is called Additional School Activities. So what this is Jason and I were trying to brainstorm how can we help the kids play more independently in the afternoons. We want them, especially as homeschoolers, I am very much wanting to introduce the kids to things like woodworking and crochet and cooking recipes and learning real life skills that don't necessarily have to come out of a curriculum that like we are all formally learning this today. I would like to start introducing them to different things, which we have done a lot of, and say, hey, why don't you work on Magnolia right now is working on crocheting or it's it's called knitting. It's loom knitting. That's what the word is, where it's on a loom. So it's easier than regular knitting. And she's doing a hat. She's really excited about this hat. She really wants to work on it. She has like 10 rows done, but every time you work on it, it's really slow going. And so there are times where she's like, Mom, can you just tell me I have to do a row? Cause like she's fighting against that external self-discipline or the internal self-discipline to make it happen. And so we found that with several of our kids, they're like, they actually prefer if we're like, no, you have to do that thing right now. Because once you start it, it's actually enjoyable. But we all know as adults, getting started is 3/4 of the battle, right? So what we came up with is this additional school activities list. This lives on our fridge. This is on our fridge every single day. And when it's 2:00 in the afternoon and the kids are like, I'm bored, like, what can I do? I'm like, go look at the list. And it just gives generic ideas of things that they can do. And I have found that this has been so helpful. Okay. So what I'm going to do, these are not in any particular order. I sat down and just did a brain dump. I bet I could think of things to add to this. Maybe in a few months, we've been using this for about 2 months now. Maybe in a few months, we're going to want to refresh this list and change it up, especially as we head into summer, might be a good idea. But these are our ideas. So our kids are, the oldest set of twins are 11. They're heading into 6th grade. The middle set of twins are almost 9. They're heading into 4th grade. Magnolia is 7. She's heading into 3rd grade. Got to keep everybody's ages straight. Maverick just turned 4. Okay. And so he does a lot of these things. Like he's kind of like following people along and bouncing around and doing all kinds of stuff as he gets older. He does like sitting and coloring, and he'll work on crafts and things like that. He loves when I get crafts out for him. So obviously he needs a bit more. The kids, I can say, go find a craft. Him, I'll be like, oh, Maverick, let's pull this out and do it. Or let's get the magnet tiles out. Then of course we have our 20-month-old who's just a spitball and all over the place and destroying the house, and he'll play with magnet tiles for 10 minutes and then he's off doing other things. He's often the one that if I'm in the kitchen, he's right alongside me, which keeps him occupied, and then I'm pregnant. So we will have a newborn for this next school year, which always is a little bit tricky to rework the schedule. But that's where a list like this becomes even more important when I have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a newborn that's also in the mix, as well as those 5 olders. So just giving you idea for ages. But obviously you can brainstorm. If you've got a 14-year-old, they could do a lot of these things, but like on a larger scale, right? Or come up with other things. And if you have younger kids, there's still a lot of things that you could have on here, but you're going to make them a simpler version. Like I said, for the 4-year-old, he loves doing crafts, but I tend to have to think of them a little bit more. And I'll say, oh, I have foam. I've got like these foam boards. I have googly eyes and I have markers. Here you go, kid. Make something. And then actually a lot of times if I get something like that out for the 4-year-old, there's bound to be another kid or two, an older kid or two that comes and joins. The 2-year-old will join. Yes, it's messy. Yes, it's okay. All right. So here's my very random list. Read another chapter of your fiction book. Sometimes they need to be reminded, hey, you could read more. You could read above and beyond your reading requirements for today. Ride your bikes out front. Do a Kiwi crate, do a kids art hub video. We love kids art hub. I have 3 children in particular who would do like 5 kid art hub videos in a row, but sometimes they need to be reminded that you could do that. Color in a coloring book. We have coloring books. We've got like maze books. We've got Sudoku books. Go get one. Watch an educational show that mom or dad picks. This is not something that they can just do all day long, but sometimes we'll put on. My one son, we're studying dinosaurs right now. One of my 11-year-olds has been really into watching Answers in Genesis. They have a whole selection of dinosaur videos. So sometimes if he's bored, I'm like, sure, you can watch an Answers in Genesis documentary. Go for it. Which then, of course, other kids trickle in and end up doing it too. The 2 olders I have on this list that they can work on their quilt. They know how to work on their quilt pretty independently. They know there's things that they can do on it. Bake something. All 5 of the older kids know how to pick up my cookbook, volume 1, Finding Joy in Your Kitchen. And there are almost every recipe in that cookbook they can do on their own or mostly on their own. Like my daughter might say, Magnolia, who's 6, she loves baking, but she doesn't know how to do everything yet. So she'll be like, Mom, can I make these? I'm like, no, you probably can't do those on your own. She's not making donuts on her own. But oh, those peanut butter cookies? Sure, have at it. Start doing the recipe. And then obviously I'm around to answer questions. The older kids can bake a lot of that stuff just completely on their own. And that's fun because then they can make cookies in the afternoon for themselves. Like that's such a great activity that I feel like is so educational, but they're getting to bake cookies. Like it's a win-win for everybody in the household. This is another one, make tea and listen to an audiobook. This is a favorite of a lot of people's. They'll be like, Mom, can I make tea? And then they'll get their tea and go listen to an audiobook. Pick an additional chore. This one's probably our number 1 favorite. Pick an additional chore to do, and then you can make popcorn. Our kids love making popcorn. We have an air popper. And so I tied this one. This was so smart on my part because I didn't know if they would love this. But almost every day without fail, someone's like, Mom, do you have another chore I can do? I want to make popcorn. And like that's something that they can just go do on their own. They could have just made popcorn, but for some reason, I knew it was going to be one that they'd want to do. And so I attached an extra chore to it. Make a home movie. Our kids are all about filming. We have an old phone that they can film on, and they will make home movies. They just made like a ninja one where they were all ninjas. One of my sons is really into like stop motion. They're not very good at it yet, but they love doing that sort of thing. But it really does take reminding them to do it sometimes. Make a comic book. They love doing comic books. Do a drawing contest. Our kids love doing drawing contests where they'll all say, okay, draw a dinosaur. And then they all have to draw a dinosaur and they're unlabeled. And then they give them to me or Jason. And then we have to do like who won and in what place and all of that. Make cards for someone special. So for, grandma, grandpa type of thing. Write a letter and draw a picture to Mimsy and Papa. That's their grandma and grandpa. Make an obstacle course outside. This is one they have not done on this list yet. I'm going to suggest that next time they're bored. Find cardboard in the garage and make something cool. Come up with a play to do and perform it for mom or dad. Throw a dance party. The kids love putting just, music on and doing a dance party. So those are all just like really random things. There's so many more things we could add. Like each kid kind of has some specific projects. Like Magnolia's working on the hat. Micah's trying to learn how to crochet, but I don't know how to crochet very well. So we're kind of at a standstill. I'm actually getting a crochet lesson this week from a friend. So I'm hoping I'll be able to help him. He has a little taco that he's going to be making. So as they get older, there are more doors open that they are more capable of doing more things. I can't tell my 4-year-old go bake something, but he can play along in a lot of these things. So that's my random list. I'd love to hear from you what would be on your list. What are things? It's so fun to hear from other people like, oh, I didn't even think to throw a dance party. But this list is wonderful. There are often times where I'm in the kitchen and I see a kid kind of drift over to the fridge and he's looking through the list and then he disappears for a while. And I'm like, I don't know if he picked something from that list, but like it helps them. They don't want to do anything on that list. That's fine, but find something else to do, and they'll spend a lot of times just kind of playing outside or, they're sitting around the couch or whatever. That's totally fine. It doesn't have to be that every second of your day is filled with something structured. I think unstructured time where they get bored, where they have to find stuff to do. I think that is so good for kids. And so what I just want to do with this list is eliminate, Mom, what can I do? Because if they say that, they know now. They don't really ask me much because when we first put this list out, I said, go look at the list. There's your ideas. And then sometimes they'll even be like, oh, Mom, it says on here that I could do this. Could I do this other thing? And so it really just helps give them a tiny bit of structure. It helps direct them because most of the time they'd be like, Mom, what can I do? And I'm like, well, go find a craft. Well, I don't know what kind of craft, and it eliminates a lot of that, gives them more self-direction, and then lets them know, hey, these are some fun ideas of things that you can do. And they just seem to have a lot more self-directed time. In fact, right now, the baby is napping. The 4-year-old, he is watching Thomas the Train right now because he fell asleep early. He doesn't normally take a nap. We have a friend who just came down with a fever. So I'm really I'm praying that this is not fever, but he fell asleep during read aloud time this morning, which he does not do. And he slept for like an hour and then he woke up all groggy. And I was like, well, I'm going to go film my podcast. Do you want to watch Thomas? And he was like, yes. So I haven't heard a peep. He's very happily watching Thomas. So I'm not saying we're completely against screens. There are times, but all 5 of the other kids are finishing up their reading for the school day and they're working on other projects. One kid was working on a scratch project that's on the computer, but it's where you learn how to code. And he's been taking coding classes. And so he really likes that. Like he'll make games and he'll do all kinds of stuff, which I just think is very awesome. One kid was doing that. Another kid was listening to an audiobook. I may come out and find that somebody made tea during that process. A kid earlier asked me if he could make popcorn, pick a chore and do popcorn. And I said, sure, we can do that later. So he'll probably ask me when I come out there. And so there, and then Magnolia, when I walked in here, she was at the kitchen table working on a craft. And so that is, also partly how I'm able to sit down and record a podcast because people are doing things. The baby is going to be up from a nap though any second. That is the 20-month-old is the hard one where I'm like, you're down for a nap? Okay, it's record time. That is the one that throws a wrench in it. So anyway, that's just kind of a very loose discussion on this. I didn't have I guess I technically had 3 steps for you. But this is more so just what we've been learning and what we've been doing. So I would love, love, love to hear from you, especially on YouTube, since it's nice and easy to leave comments. Let me know, what other things do you put on your list? What are some things that you have found to help? If you have older kids or younger kids, share what your experience has been. It's the best way to learn. And I love, especially, this is such a good conversation to have as we head into summer, because summer can be wild sometimes. And so how do we kind of mitigate those wild summer days where we're just home and maybe you still need to get stuff done? Then implementing something like this can really help. So I would love to hear from you on that. All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to check out our app, findingjoyinyourhome.com/app. We are going to have the 2024 Finding Joy in Your Home online conference at the end of May. You get just access to it as part of your app subscription. You can just sign up for 1 month if you want and cancel. You can attend our entire online conference for $10. But if you choose to stick around, you also, for the price of, instead of the price of a ticket, you can get 6 months to our app, and it is hundreds of other resources. All of our past conferences, we've got courses, we have homeschool courses on there. We're actually going to be this summer, we're going to be starting a new series on reviewing homeschool curriculum. That's going to be a series that's going to be in the app. We're going to actually have other homeschool moms coming in too and sharing their experience with their homeschool curriculums. It's going to be a really fun series. But it's not just for homeschoolers. I mean, we have so much other stuff. We've got audiobooks for kids. It is truly, truly incredible. You can also get 20% off your subscription, which works month after month after month. The 20% stays on your account. So head over to findingjoyinyourhome.com/app. All right, ladies. Oh, and also we've got the theme coming for the conference is going to be announced very soon. And it's going to be amazing this year. It's my favorite year we've ever done. I probably say that a lot, but this year is different and really fun. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys back here next week for the next episode.